All right, so hi guys, welcome to workshop 6, I think. We're going to be just discussing some interview hacks and just some tips that I came up with just to prepare y'all for some interviews. This shouldn't take that long. I know a lot of people are getting busy with studying and finals, so I'll keep it short and simple tonight. And yeah, let's get started. So, hello, tell me about yourself. This is a question that we always start, like most interviews always start with, and I feel like this question like kind of trumps people. It's like, ooh, like you're on the spot. You don't really have a format for how to answer this question, and it's kind of like open-ended. So stop, take a breath, and we're gonna get through this. We're gonna think of a way to answer this. So what to avoid when you're answering this question, because usually it's always kind of like the general first question that a lot of interviewers start with. You want to avoid your resume information. So you don't want to babble. This question is really important because you can really play it out very strategically. So you want to avoid rambling because this kind of shows how you kind of critically think, how you organize your thoughts. And then it's also the part of the interview where you can kind of sell yourself and explain why you want this position that you're going for. So like I said, you want to avoid like your resume information. Like you don't need to mention your GPA. You don't need to mention like any past employments. Like just strictly stick to a very short, simple, summarized answer that's very organized and just also explains who you are and why you want this job. So these are some tips on how to answer this question. So you know yourself best. I like to advise people to do like 2 to 3 points, like focus on that because it's not too many things. It's not hard to forget like these general ideas. So I like to kind of focus on the structure of like your school profile. So like, hi, my name's Margaret. I'm a senior. I'm a kinesiology major at UTSA. Like super simple. That's all you need to do. And then the next part is kind of why you're interested in this position. So in our cases, when we're trying to get technician jobs or trying to get into different PT programs, like you kind of want to say like, I'm on the PT track. I'm really interested in this. I'm studying kinesiology. I found out more about like this career field, and I'm really trying to get some more experience, like yada yada, like PT school, like kind of briefly state why you want to chase PT. Like I was a patient. I want to help people. I want to help people heal. Like you just want to keep it short and simple and then kind of give a general idea. It's like you're kind of a salesperson and you have to sell yourself in like 5 seconds. Like you want to just make sure that your thoughts are very organized and that you're not kind of losing track of the general idea of like who you are and why you should be selected for the position, whatever it may be. So keep calm and brief. This is probably like the easiest question if you know a general sense of what you are going to say, but it's probably the most overthought question because there really is no right or wrong answer, and it can go like many different directions, and it's very open-ended. So I really suggest staying on track, making sure you have 2 to 3 points to sell yourself to a company, to a program, and it should be smooth sailing from there. Okay, now that I caught you off guard with that question, let's dive into these tips. So this is mainly focused towards physical therapy like settings, so PT schools, tech positions, etc., but they can still be applied to various other positions. So this is what I came up with. So this is before the interview. You got the offer, now you have to prepare for this interview. There's a lot of preparation behind it. Like they saw your resume, they saw your application, and they want you for this position. They're interested, they want to talk to you. But it doesn't end there. There's a lot of work to make sure you are the best candidate for this position. So dress to impress. It's your first impression. You want to make sure you dress very modestly. You want to make sure you have good hygiene. So like neat hair, like brush your teeth, make sure you don't smell bad, like just look very put together, like wash your face, have clean clothes on. Also dress in a business casual, like very professional setting. And also kind of limit accessories. I know a lot of people like layering necklaces, having a lot of earrings in, a lot of rings, like very simple. Very simple jewelry, very simple accessories, because it can be too much sometimes. You just, overall, you want to look put together and like you're ready to have a very professional conversation with someone. So what exactly is business casual? I looked up this article and this is a quote. And it says that business casual attire is broadly defined as a code of dress that blends traditional business wear with a more relaxed style that's still professional and appropriate for an office environment. So it's kind of hard because I feel like fashion and style have taken a lot of different turns, especially now. And business casual is kind of like a vague sense. Some people say like jeans and like a polo, blah, blah, blah. In these cases, I just like kind of sticking to a kind of a rubric. So just simple, keep simple patterns. Like don't go for like a crazy shirt or like crazy pants, like neon green or like stripes or like polka dots, like nothing that would be too distracting. So like neutral tones, like black, gray, white, navy, brown. Like I said, patterns just cause a lot of distractions during the interview. And so personally for me, if I see a crazy pattern, sometimes like my eyes can hurt. So you just want to keep it simple, and it will always look very fresh and very clean if you stick to very neutral tones. It's a very professional look. And then some like tops you can wear, some blouses, blazers, button downs, and polos. I would suggest avoiding skirts just because sometimes length can be really difficult and kind of like tricky. But like just to avoid the complex thought of like a skirt and like the length and everything. Avoid jeans and khakis, like slacks preferred, like I said, just a neutral tone. Dress up a little bit. It doesn't have to be so professional. It doesn't have to be like suit and tie, but don't pull up in jeans or khakis just because that's more of like a casual, like a kind of out of office type appearance. And you want to look like, put together, like I said. Some shoe recommendations are like loafers, boots, low heels, or flats. I would recommend leather shoes just because I think it really cleans up the looks and kind of like elevates it, makes it a little more professional and very like classy. I wouldn't suggest tennis shoes, but like if that's all you have, I would just go make sure like the shoes are very clean, like you're not dirty or scuffed or really worn in. But yeah, there are some notes on that. So these are just a picture I found that shows like a pretty good variety of different options you can wear. So as you can see, like we have 2 examples of wearing like a blazer or a jacket, and then 2 other examples where you don't have to wear exactly like a suit or a jacket or a blazer. Like just be creative with it. You're not limited, but also just make sure it kind of flows nicely together. As you can see, like the second guy has like a nice watch, and the lady on the left has like that little bracelet. So you can accessorize, but like I said, just you want to keep it very simple and not too distracting. Okay, number 2, research. You want to know before you go. So what should you research? So I divided it up off of like a PT school program and then a tech program. So one thing you should do for any position is just look up like the mission statement and values of the company, whatever it may be. Like it'll help you kind of get an overall sense of what the company stands for, like what they believe, and then like what their mission statement, like what their goal is as a company to do. And this will help you like formulate answers as they're kind of like asking maybe scenario questions and just like hypotheticals, like how would you handle this situation? You can reference back to the mission statement and back to the values of the company of whatever it may be. For PT school, I would really recommend studying the graduation rate, like kind of getting a sense of like how successful this program is. Also the curriculum, in case they kind of ask, like if you have any questions, like you get asked about the curriculum, and then also kind of put a sense of what is kind of expected from you as a student in the program. And then like if the PT school has like any specialties, so if there's a school that really specializes in research, if there's a school that really specializes in manual therapy, like this will help you get an overall sense of like what they're kind of looking for as a candidate. And then that can help you form your responses in different hypotheticals stuff. And then also just knowing the PT schools like mission statement and values, that comes into a lot of use. From my interviews that I've had so far, it really has helped me kind of show that that I have a lot of interest in a program, because I bring up the mission statement. I talk about like, like I really like how y'all focus on people of any age. I really like how y'all focus of someone from any like background, like economic stance, like regardless of race, gender, like social status, like I really like that. And that'll show that you did research. It's not like, oh, I got the interview, like, let me just show up and wing it, It'll show like there's more depth and care behind preparing for this interview. So it also just shows that you're someone who is curious and someone who really wants to learn more and just take advantage of this program, and someone who's really interested. For a tech position, I would just recommend looking up like the general overall duties of a tech, because some people aren't really familiar with what a tech does, and it kind of varies from clinic to clinic. Like some technicians do like some housekeeping, some techs don't, some strictly do like patient care, some techs have to take vitals, others techs don't. So kind of have a general sense, because this can also help like form conversations of questions of like what's expected if you were to get the job and everything. But then also like you don't want to be interviewed and then they ask a question about like, you know, clinic day-to-day activities and you're like, oh, I don't know what they're talking about. So just kind of have like an overall sense of knowledge. So it kind of shows that you did more than just show up to the interview just because they asked to meet with you. Okay, so like I was saying, why does this help? It allows you to formulate responses, shows you have knowledge about the area, shows you prepared, and it can set you ahead of others. Because some people, I can guarantee you, they just show up to the interview like no research at all, no questions, like no knowledge about anything. And it does make a difference, because people that do prepare to have like intellectual conversations to get to know you and why you should be hired for this position or selected for this seat in a class, like it really does make a big difference. So definitely research before you go to your interview and just like take mental notes, kind of formulate general knowledge and get used to kind of like adjust to like whatever you're applying to or being interviewed for. Okay, know your big three. So I formulated 3 general questions that are usually a guaranteed question, one of them, or even all 3 or just 2. So what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And what makes you stand out from other candidates? Like you have to know, like these are guaranteed questions, especially with technician jobs, I feel like, just because it does show a lot about your work ethic and how you handle things. And also it can kind of show like a lot of your personality also. So I recommend really solidifying these 3 answers. So talking about strengths and weaknesses, you have to be honest. Like people will know if you're lying. Like it seems too scripted. It doesn't seem natural, and you don't really see that like authenticity behind someone's eyes. So think of scenarios and examples where you exemplified strengths and like how these strengths help you. So when we're focusing on strengths, you want to talk about like for me, like I always talk about one of my strengths is that I'm a really social person. With it being social, I'm able to like connect with patients, you know, and like tie it into more about how that would affect your day-to-day like life as a technician at PT school and like, you know, in the workplace. Because if I could list off like 10 strengths, I could be like, I'm patient, I'm a good team worker, blah, blah, blah. But they don't want you to list things, you know, like they want you to elaborate, like, why is this considered a strength? Like, how is this shown to be a strength to you? They want to see like real life scenarios, talk about that, because that'll say a lot about you and your work dynamic within the workplace. Now with your weaknesses, you want to talk about how you overcome them or have overcame them. And if you haven't, you talk about like how you're focusing on trying to do better. So like, for example, I am like, one of my weaknesses is just like patience, because I feel like I have to do everything by myself. And one thing I always talk about is that I'm trying to overcome this by realizing like teamwork is within like it's among other people. So I don't have to take everything by myself. Like, yes, it's a little frustrating when I could do like quicken the process, but I have to remember like as a team, like we have to be there for each other. We have to work together, and that involves like being patient with each other and supporting each other, you know? Like you don't want to be you know, you don't want to like kind of unsell yourself by saying like I'm not patient, I'm like not social, like blah blah blah. Like you want to talk about what you've noticed that you could improve on in the workplace and how you've done that, or how you're like currently improving that, because that just shows that you're very self-aware and you're knowledgeable that you do have some faults, but of course like with your faults and weaknesses, like they have to be improved one way or another. So it just depends. It just shows like your work ethic, like I said, and shows how you are going to be like within the workplace. So here are some strengths examples I listed, like teamwork, time management, adaptability. Some weakness examples could be like having boundaries, lack of confidence, and lack of experience, which is a big thing with technician roles. A lot of people get worried because when they get interviewed for a tech position, it's like, oh, like I haven't observed, like I don't really know what a tech does. I don't really know how to talk to patients, like blah, blah, blah. Like I feel like that's very relatable to a lot of people. But if you really sell yourself in the tell me about yourself, and emphasize like I really want this tech position to gain experience in like the clinic. I really want more exposure. I want to make sure like this is right for me. Like a lot of clinics are very understandable. Like they know that being a technician is like a learning experience. It's not really a job you want to stay in for a long time, because it is just acting as a role to kind of train you for you know, PT school and the PT career field. So if that's one of your weaknesses that you think, if you think you just lack experience to become a technician, don't let that stop you. So like I said, with the weakness things, like talk about how you're going to overcome that by using like opportunities to gain experience, you know? So remember with this, there is no right or wrong. This is another open-ended question. It's very individualized, ranging from person to person. And then also that some strengths can also be considered weaknesses. So like some of y'all might think that the weakness examples might be one of your strengths, and you know, flip-flop. So it really just varies. So just think about a lot of different experiences, like in school, in past employments, like literally anything. And once you have an idea of what those are, just think about how that has allowed you to grow from there. Okay, so what makes you stand out? This one, be honest, be creative. It's gonna, like the other answer, is gonna vary from different people. So I like to kind of think about these questions when I'm trying to think of these answers of what makes me stand out as a candidate for like any position. Like what talents do I have and what could I bring to an employment position? What skills do I have? Like if I'm CPR certified, if I have like literally anything. You just have to make a list of all these things. Like how well do I engage with others? How do my values and morals make me a good candidate? What is my role in team and group work dynamics? So you want to think mainly about kind of a setting where you're going to be interacting with a lot of people, like, and your work ethic. So what makes you stand out? I always talk about how I'm very social, and like very adaptable, and you just have to sell it. Like you have to have kind of like examples to back yourself up. You don't want to say like, you know, like I'm a really good team worker and like leave it at that. And like you want to elaborate. So as long as you kind of give really good thought about this question and have like good anecdotes about it, I feel like this will be pretty easy. But really just focus on being creative. Like don't think that you always have to say like, yeah, I'm like really responsible, or like, yeah, I'm really punctual. Like you're not limited to like this question at all. Like they're not hoping you say like, oh, you're responsible, you're a good team player, like blah, 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 blah. Just be honest and kind of like think about what makes you very unique. And honestly, like I ask my friends sometimes, like, what makes you stand out? Like, obviously, some of them won't be appropriate for the work setting, but like it does give you a general sense, because there is a whole side of you that you don't even know that other people only see. So ask around, like ask your parents. You can even ask your professors, like, what makes me stand out as a student? What makes me stand out as like a daughter or son? Like just getting different perspectives and kind of analyzing that will really help you formulate your answers for this question. Okay, number 4, be positive. Don't be a Debbie Downer. So nobody likes negativity. So with all these answers and all these interactions that you're going to have in this interview, you want to stay positive. Any story you tell, you want to make sure it resolves in a positive manner, because this will just show that you have a great attitude. No one ever wants someone that has a bad attitude. Like that goes for sports, jobs, like school. Like who wants that? No one wants someone bringing down others. Like you want to make sure that you show these people who are interviewing you that you are very positive, that you have hope, that you take every opportunity as a chance to grow and something to learn. And that'll really stand out, because I think a lot of people can get caught up in the negative aspects of a lot of things, but that's kind of like a huge turnoff to a lot of companies, a lot of schools, because like school, they kind of want a curious, like very hopeful, excited, enthusiastic student in their program. And as a technician and like literally any other employment opportunity, like you're going to be interacting with different people. Like you don't want to kind of bring down other people, because no one wants that. Like, no. All right. Number 5, be yourself. I quoted Dr. Seuss because this is true. There is no one alive who is youer than you. So it is cliche for a reason. your personality is like a huge part of why people have interviews, because they kind of want to get a feel of who you are, you know? They want to get to know you. And it's like I said, it's very noticeable if you kind of have your answers word for word, like scripted, memorized. You want to show up like very authentic and very much like natural. Don't feel like you have to, hide, if you have humor, like show you have humor. If you're like, like you don't have to kind of like be like, okay, I'm like strictly professional. I have to use like all these big fancy words. Like, no, like they want to see you. That's like a huge part for an interview. Like they could have just selected you, given you the job based off of your resume and like your application, but interviews do play a huge part because your personality is like a huge factor of whether you get like a position or a job. So just be you. I know it's super cliche, but it really does show. And it does make a big difference if you kind of like filter it, because it's very noticeable, if you knew that or not. But like everyone's unique in a different way, and getting to know people is really fun, and not everyone's going to be the same. There is no like strict format of who can be in a PT program, who can be a technician. And I think it's really good to have different people of different personalities. So don't be afraid to show who you are, and don't feel like you need a filter and like fit a mold of like the perfect technician or the perfect student. Okay, number 6, review your materials. This kind of strictly goes to any PT program interviews that you may get. But it can also sort of be applied to like other job opportunities. Remember what you said that made schools interested in the first place. Okay, so if you do get an interview for a DPT program, I would advise looking over like your essay, letters of reference, and your resume. So, like just kind of reviewing what made a program interested in you in the first place is always good, because you can kind of get remotivated to kind of like sell yourself to these schools. So like reading your essay, like why did I want to choose PT? Like what made my essay stand out? Like what did I talk about? Like how did I word these things? Like what parts might have grabbed their attention that made me stand out? Letters of reference, this can be applied to like a tech position or like a job, or the PT program. It just, like I said, there's a whole part of you that a lot of people notice that you don't even know, because you don't interact with yourself, other people interact with you. So when you get that feedback from other people, there's a lot of good things from that, like just criticism, because they do notice like your strengths, like what makes you unique, what makes you like a good friend, like a good student, a good oh my goodness, what is it, a good worker and everything. So kind of reading over letters of reference from like any moment in your life, like that does help, because it kind of gives you another insight about yourself that you may not kind of acknowledge like day to day. Your resume, just to kind of talk about different experiences you had. So if you did a lot of volunteer work, you can like remember like, oh yeah, like I did that in like 2020. Oh yeah, like I did that and it helped me do this. Just kind of remembering those experiences in case you do need to talk about scenario. Say like tell me about a time you've had like a difficult situation in a professional setting. You can reference back like, oh, okay, I used to work here. Like, I remember this kind of happening there. And like, I learned this from that job, So kind of reviewing and getting a summary over yourself as a person is really helpful, especially if you do get offered an interview through a program, because they saw you, they never met you, but they saw like your essay, your letters of reference, and they're interested in you, and they're interested in you for a reason. So kind of like hyping yourself back up and remotivating yourself will help you kind of feel more prepared and just kind of have that general knowledge in your head as you go into the interview. Okay, so be on your toes, expect the unexpected. So I feel like there are very different interview settings. So I actually have an interview soon. It's going to be a group interview, and I've never ever heard of that. Here I am kind of like walking in thinking it's going to be like sit down, like me in a chair and someone behind a desk. I feel like that's kind of the standard interview we have. But like in modern time, there's very different settings. Like you can have a group interview, like a Zoom interview, like, and then like, I don't know if y'all have ever had a job, but when I worked at Vans, we had to do like a like a little video interview, but like no one was asking the questions. The question would like pop up on a screen and then you would answer the question. It was very weird. But like you have to expect the unexpected. Like all you need to know and like feel very well prepared for is just like who you are as a person. Like you really have to be able to sell yourself. But then you also have to be ready for these different kind of variations of interviews. You don't want to have like one general idea and expect like it's going to be very formal where I'm going to be sitting in a chair, they're going to be behind a desk with like pen and paper writing down notes about me. And then like the different kind of atmosphere of the interview can be different. So like I've had interviews where it's very professional. Like I know like I shouldn't be like cracking jokes as much. Like it's very straightforward. Like they're very like strict and to the point. But then I've also had interviews that are very like casual and like more of a conversation versus like an interrogation. So just be ready to adapt to whatever the atmosphere may be or like the format may be of the interview. So yeah, just expect the unexpected. It's better to have like no expectations of like how it'll go until you're done with it, because if you hold expectations, it can throw you off the natural flow of everything very easily. Okay, always have a question. Don't leave without picking their brain. If you ask a very well thought out question, I can guarantee you like that person's going to remember you, especially if it is very related to like the position or like the program that you're being interviewed for. So I made a little list about like what you should ask, like some general ideas. For a tech position, it's kind of limited. So you can either make it like job oriented, kind of asking like oh, like is this more like on the job training or like yada yada, like like how fast do you think it is to like learn how to like read the flow sheets of like the different exercise and stuff, like make it kind of more about like the job. Or you can make it a little more personal, like as a prospective physical therapy student, you could ask like, why did you choose PT? Like, oh, are you specialized in anything? Like, do you have a favorite realm of PT? Like, you can make it kind of personal engagement, just to just ask a question, because that is really important, because that will be your last interaction before you find out if you got the position or not. For PT school, so I actually talked to someone about like interview tips, and they said with like applying to professional programs, the thing is like it's not you trying to convince, what did they say? It's like we have to act like this school, like we have to sell ourselves to the school. Like you don't want to ask questions that will be like kind of like focused on you. Like you want to focus on the program, and like also maybe like the interview person that's conducting it. So you can ask about like the curriculum. That's really good, because it also just shows that you did some research and you have outside knowledge about the program, and it's not just you showing up to an interview. You can ask about like student life, like just kind of questions that kind of could point to you being a future student there, like insightful, like hopeful, futuristic questions, because it's not like, it's like you want to ask questions because you're very confident you're going to get a spot, or this one's really good, is looking up different issues or topics in the PT community. So one interviewer actually asked me how I felt about direct access, which is basically in Texas, you don't need to get a referral to have physical therapy treatment. And I felt very thrown off about this question because I didn't know that much about it. And so after that interview, I kind of like researched it. And then there's like a ton of like ethical questions that are going on in the PT community. So I feel like if you kind of do some research, like find a topic that really grabs your attention and like, kind of picks your brain, and you ask it at the end of your interview for a program, like that'll pick their brain as well, because as PTs, like this is an issue that is directly affecting their career. So regardless of like what the question is, like it is something that can be brought attention to the interviewer, or it can be like a discussion where you kind of have your opinion and then they're also talking about their opinion as well. Like these make a huge difference, because it does just show like you're seeing physical therapy more than just like a current like possibility. You're thinking about like, I want to research about more about like the career field. I want to stay up to date on like what's happening, how like this profession could be affected if I were to be a physical therapist. So just taking notes on what you should ask is really important because, like I said, it is going to be the last interaction before you find out if you get the position or not. So just kind of start thinking about those things. Maybe start reading some like weekly articles about some issues or topics up for debate that surrounds physical therapy, or kind of like any healthcare thing, like healthcare environment, because it is something that a lot of people in the healthcare field kind of like care about, and because it will like directly affect their career. Okay. Number 9, follow up. Don't let them forget who you are. So add a personal flair. I would say wait 2 to 3 days after, because if you like leave wherever the interview is and like you just email them immediately, it's like, whoa, like you didn't give me any time to think, like you don't want to bombard them and you don't want to like nag at them. Like you want to be respectful, like, you know what, they just interviewed me, they might be like a little tired, they might have like other interviews. So I'm just going to give them some time to like debrief, and it also allows you like to just kind of like relax. Like I got the interview done with, like I'll follow up like the next day or like 2 to 3 days from now. And just kind of emphasize like, thank you for considering me for like this position. It was great meeting with you. And you also want to be, like I said before, like positive. You want to be enthusiastic, but it's also like keep it really short and simple. Like you don't want to talk your mouth off. Like you just want to kind of just say thank you, and then also just kind of be in the back of their mind like, wow, like they emailed me, they followed up. With PT school interviews, I would suggest kind of try to remember who interviewed you, because usually it's a faculty staff, so you can always find their email on like the school's website. But even if you can't do that, like you can always just email the director for like admissions and just like, thank you for giving me this opportunity. But yeah, like a thank you really does make a difference. Even though it does sound like, oh, like why do I have to do that? Like they'll remember me, like, like stand out from the rest of the other candidates, like just do like this small little task and it will make a bigger difference like overall. Okay. And then my last tip is evaluate yourself, like self-reflect. So you want to write down notes, like after, you don't have to like physically write down notes, but you kind of want to have like this like analyzing moment where you think about all the questions that they asked you in the interview, like, and how you answered it. And then you also want to kind of think about like, how did I answer this question? Like, was it good? Like, did I ramble too much? Did I stutter too much? Think about like how you could improve your next interview opportunity that you could have. Because you want to be able to learn from your mistakes. And if this is like a first interview, it's not going to be your last interview, but you just want to, grow and kind of take notes and self-criticize, because then it's something you can work on. I'm sure all of us have had, or most of us have had kind of like awkward interviews, or interviews we don't feel that confident about. And like, the first interview that you ever get in your life is really stressful because you don't really know how you are in that kind of setting. So it's always good to kind of self-reflect and kind of like make mental notes like, okay, I need to figure out what my strengths are. I need to figure out what makes me stand out. Like, how am I unique? Like, I don't want to sound like everyone else, and this will just help you prepare, like, regardless if you get the position or not. Like, doing this is kind of important. It doesn't have to be like, I'm going to sit down and like journal about this. Like, just kind of think about it. Like, yeah, you're done with the interview, but kind of take in like the moment while you have it and think how you feel, how everything went, and from there you can grow and, get better at interviews and nail it. And, like what to prepare for, like, how you answer the questions and everything. So yeah, just don't forget that with interviews, it comes with like a lot of self-reflection too, because like it's not going to be your last interview. You're always going to have more. I can guarantee it. And with every interview you get, you want to get better and better. And that goes for anything, like anything in the world. Okay. So overall, if you get the position or not, you want to stay positive. Like, I know it's really frustrating not to get like a tech job or like to get a rejection letter. No one ever likes that, but like in the interview too, like I mentioned being positive, like, like if you don't get the position, if you don't get the seat, like take it with a grain of salt. And like I was saying about self-evaluating, like you just have to take this opportunity and grow from it. Like, just know that it's not going to be your last interview. I don't think there's ever really like Like, you can't have a mindset like, oh, this is gonna be my last interview. Like, you're always gonna get interviewed. You're gonna have many throughout your life. And just, like, accept like, okay, someone else was better than me, but the next interview I have, like, I'm gonna be the best. Like, you just have to stay on your toes, because if you let rejection kind of get you, like, it'll show, and that'll kind of stunt your progress. So I know interviews are very intimidating and can be very stressful, but just take a deep breath and kind of stay in the realms of positivity, and like, keep your chin up. Like, I know it's really stressful, especially as an undergrad, and like trying to get positions, trying to like apply places. Like, it can be really stressful, but you just have to stay hopeful, enthusiastic, and positive, and it's going to be a huge growing lesson in the end. Okay, so to close off, UTSA has this what am I trying to say? This website, this resource where you can actually do practice interviews. So this is a QR code to that page, and you just have to like authenticate an account, like, and just prove that you're a UTSA student and everything. But it's like a video one, so it'll pop up with questions. I haven't done it, but I read about it, and it'll just ask you questions and kind of run you through like an interview mock style. So if you want to do that, this is the resource for that. If you can't pull up the QR code right now, just let me know and I can send you the link. But yeah, it's a really good thing. Definitely try it out, especially if you are someone that's really nervous or just like kind of want to practice a lot. Like, this is a great resource that UTSA offers in order for like preparation or anything. Okay, so thank you so much for coming out. I know I kept it kind of short and simple because I know, like I said, a lot of people have like finals coming up, and it's kind of like the end of the semester, losing motivation. I know it's really hard. But yeah, this will be uploaded on YouTube if you need to just review and everything. Our last workshop's going to be on November 22nd at 5:30, and it's going to be just a really chill workshop. Stress hacks, study tips, probably really short too. So if you're short of points or anything, make it out. It's going to be really chill, and I'm not going to make it long because I know it's like coming towards the end of the semester, and I know there's a lot of things going on. Let me stop the recording real quick.